In the world of spirituality, not everything that glitters is gold. There are 5 seemingly innocent gifts that can actually poison your spiritual journey. These aren't obvious traps. They often come wrapped in good intentions and positive vibes. But make no mistake, these 5 things can seriously derail your path to enlightenment and inner peace. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and reveal why these spiritual gifts are anything but beneficial. Think about it. How many times have you accepted something in your spiritual practice without questioning it? Maybe it was advice from a guru, a special crystal, or a powerful mantra. We're often told to be open and receptive on our spiritual journeys. But what if some of the things we're receiving are actually holding us back? What if they're clouding our judgment, blocking our true potential, or even leading us down a dangerous path? That's exactly what we're diving into today. We'll explore 5 things that might seem helpful or harmless on the surface, but can actually harm your spiritual growth in ways you might not expect. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer understanding of what to watch out for and how to protect your spiritual well-being. Now, you might be thinking, what's the big deal? How much harm can a few misguided spiritual practices really do? Well, the stakes are higher than you might realize. If you're not careful about these 5 things, you could end up feeling lost, confused, or stuck in your spiritual journey. You might find yourself going in circles, never quite reaching the peace and understanding you're searching for. In some cases, you could even end up in a place of fear, dependency, or spiritual manipulation. But here's the good news. If you learn to recognize and avoid these pitfalls, you're setting yourself up for genuine spiritual growth. By steering clear of these 5 traps, you'll be able to forge a clearer, more authentic path to spiritual enlightenment. You'll develop stronger spiritual discernment, deepen your connection with your true self, and experience more meaningful progress in your spiritual practices. Think of it like this. Your spiritual journey is like tending a garden. These 5 things we're going to discuss are like invasive plants. They might look pretty at first, but if you let them take root, they'll choke out the healthy growth you're trying to cultivate. By learning to spot and remove these invasive elements, you're creating space for true spiritual flowers to bloom. In the realm of spirituality, it's crucial to protect your energy, your beliefs, and your personal growth. The 5 things we're going to discuss today can interfere with this protection in subtle but powerful ways. They can cloud your judgment, lead you astray from your true path, and even open you up to negative influences. These 5 things often slip under our radar because they're usually presented as helpful or positive. They might come from well-meaning friends, respected spiritual leaders, or popular spiritual trends. But just because something is popular or comes from a seemingly trustworthy source doesn't mean it's right for your spiritual journey. Each of these 5 items has the potential to affect your spiritual path in different ways. Some might make you overly dependent on external sources for guidance. Others could disconnect you from your own inner wisdom. Some might even expose you to energies or influences that can hinder your spiritual progress. As we go through each item, we'll explore why it can be problematic, how it might affect you, and what you can do instead. Remember, the goal isn't to make you paranoid or closed off to all spiritual experiences. Instead, it's about developing discernment and learning to trust your own spiritual intuition. By understanding these potential pitfalls, you'll be better equipped to navigate your spiritual journey. you'll learn to distinguish between genuine spiritual practices that serve your growth and those that might lead you astray. This knowledge will empower you to make choices that truly align with your spiritual well-being and personal truth. So, let's dive into the first item on our list of 5 things you should never receive from anyone on your spiritual journey. This one might surprise you because it's often seen as a cornerstone of spiritual guidance. But as we'll see, it can be a double-edged sword if not approached with caution. The first thing you should never blindly receive is absolute spiritual authority from anyone. This might come in the form of a guru, a spiritual teacher, or even a religious leader who claims to have all the answers. Now, don't get me wrong, having mentors and teachers on your spiritual path can be incredibly valuable. They can offer insights, share wisdom, and guide you through challenging times. But there's a big difference between respecting a teacher and surrendering your spiritual autonomy to them. When someone presents themselves as an absolute spiritual authority, they're essentially saying, "I have all the answers, and you should follow my guidance without question." This can be incredibly tempting, especially if you're feeling lost or uncertain in your spiritual journey. It's comforting to think that someone else has it all figured out and can show you the way. But here's the problem. No one person has all the answers to life's spiritual questions. Spirituality is a deeply personal journey, and what works for one person may not work for another. When you accept someone as an absolute authority, you're essentially handing over your spiritual power to them. You're saying, "I trust your judgment more than my own inner guidance." This can lead to a number of issues. First, it can create a dependency on that person or teaching. Instead of developing your own spiritual discernment and intuition, you might always look to this authority figure for answers. This can stunt your spiritual growth and prevent you from developing a deep, personal connection with your own spirituality. Second, it can lead you to ignore your own inner wisdom. You might start to doubt your own spiritual experiences or insights if they don't align with what your authority is telling you. This can create inner conflict and disconnect you from your authentic spiritual path. Third, and perhaps most dangerously, it can make you vulnerable to manipulation or abuse. History is unfortunately full of examples where spiritual leaders have taken advantage of their followers' trust. While many spiritual teachers are genuine and well-intentioned, giving anyone absolute authority over your spiritual life opens the door to potential misuse of that power. So, what should you do instead? The key is to approach spiritual teachings and teachers with an open mind, but also with a healthy dose of discernment. Listen to what others have to say, but always filter it through your own inner wisdom. Ask yourself, does this resonate with me? Does it feel true to my own experiences and understanding? Remember, true spiritual teachers don't want blind followers. They want to empower you to find your own truth. They should encourage questions, respect your boundaries, and support your personal spiritual exploration. If a teacher or teaching demands unquestioning obedience or claims to be the only path to truth, that's a red flag. Instead of seeking an absolute authority, aim to build a diverse spiritual toolkit. Learn from various sources, try different practices, and see what resonates with you. Your spiritual journey is unique, and it's okay, even necessary, to piece together your own path from various teachings and experiences. Trust your own inner guidance. that quiet voice inside you, your intuition, is a powerful spiritual tool. Learn to listen to it and trust it. It might not always have all the answers, but it can often guide you in the right direction or warn you when something doesn't feel right. Remember, spirituality is about connecting with something greater than yourself, but it's also about discovering and embracing your own inner truth. No external authority should overshadow that personal connection and discovery. As we move on to our second item, keep this idea of personal discernment in mind. It's going to be a crucial tool in navigating all of the potential pitfalls we'll discuss. Our next topic deals with something that's become increasingly popular in spiritual circles, but can be just as problematic as surrendering to an absolute authority if not approached with care. The second thing you should be wary of receiving is quick-fix spiritual solutions. These often come in the form of products, rituals, or practices that promise instant enlightenment, immediate healing, or overnight transformation. In our fast-paced world, it's tempting to believe that our spiritual growth can happen just as quickly as everything else in our lives. But the truth is, genuine spiritual growth is often a slow, steady process that requires patience, dedication, and consistent effort. These quick-fix solutions might look like a special crystal that promises to solve all your problems, a weekend retreat that claims to completely transform your life, or a magical ritual that's supposed to instantly manifest your desires. They often come with grand promises: achieve enlightenment in just 7 days, or this secret mantra will solve all your problems. Now, don't get me wrong. Tools like crystals, retreats, and rituals can all be valuable parts of a spiritual practice. The problem arises when they're presented as magical solutions that require no effort on your part. It's the spiritual equivalent of a get-rich-quick scheme, appealing but ultimately unrealistic and potentially harmful. First, they can create unrealistic expectations. When you buy into the idea that spiritual growth or healing can happen overnight, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. When the promised results don't materialize as quickly or dramatically as you were led to believe, you might feel like you failed or that spirituality doesn't work. This can lead to disillusionment and might even cause you to give up on your spiritual journey altogether. Second, these solutions often oversimplify complex spiritual concepts. True spiritual growth often involves grappling with difficult questions, facing your shadows, and doing deep inner work. Quick-fix solutions tend to gloss over these important aspects, offering a surface-level approach that doesn't address the root of spiritual challenges. Third, relying on quick-fix solutions can prevent you from developing your own spiritual practices and insights. Instead of learning to tune into your own inner wisdom and develop personal rituals that resonate with you, you might become dependent on external products or practices. This can actually hinder your spiritual growth in the long run. Fourth, some of these quick-fix solutions can be quite expensive. There's nothing inherently wrong with paying for spiritual tools or teachings, but be wary of anything that requires you to continually spend large amounts of money to maintain your spiritual practice. True spirituality shouldn't be dependent on your wallet. Lastly, focusing on quick fixes can distract you from the real work of spiritual growth. It's often more comfortable to buy a new crystal or try the latest spiritual trend than it is to sit with difficult emotions, confront personal issues, or consistently practice meditation or self-reflection. But it's often in these challenging moments that real spiritual growth occurs. So, what should you do instead of seeking quick fix solutions? The key is to approach your spiritual journey with patience and consistency. Understand that true spiritual growth is a lifelong journey, not a destination you can reach overnight. Instead of looking for instant solutions, focus on developing a consistent spiritual practice. This might include daily meditation, journaling, prayer, or whatever resonates with you. The power of these practices often comes from doing them regularly over time, not from any immediate dramatic effects. Be willing to do the deep inner work. This means facing your fears, examining your beliefs, and being honest with yourself about your thoughts and behaviors. It's not always comfortable, but it's where real transformation happens. When you do encounter new spiritual tools or practices, approach them with curiosity, but also with discernment. Ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does it encourage me to rely on my own inner wisdom, or does it create dependency? Am I drawn to this because it promises a quick fix, or because it genuinely resonates with me? Remember, spirituality is about the journey, not the destination. It's about growing, learning, and evolving over time. Quick fixes might offer temporary relief or excitement, but lasting spiritual growth comes from consistent practice, self-reflection, and a willingness to face both the light and shadow aspects of yourself. As we move on to our third item, keep in mind this idea of patience and consistency. Our next topic deals with something that many people on a spiritual path encounter, and it can be just as seductive as the promise of a quick fix. But as we'll see, it's another area where caution and discernment are crucial. The third thing you should be careful about receiving is unverified psychic or spiritual information. This could come in the form of psychic readings, channeled messages, or predictions about your future. In the spiritual world, there's often a fascination with supernatural abilities and access to hidden knowledge. The idea that someone can see into your future or communicate with spirits on your behalf can be incredibly alluring. But it's important to approach these kinds of experiences with a balanced perspective. Now, I'm not saying that all psychic or intuitive information is false or harmful. Many people have had profound and meaningful experiences with intuitive readers or mediums. The issue arises when we accept this information without question, especially if it's about important life decisions or our spiritual path. First, it can create a sense of dependency. If you're always turning to psychics or channeled messages for guidance, you might start to doubt your own intuition and decision-making abilities. This can actually hinder your spiritual growth, as developing your own intuition and inner guidance is often a crucial part of the spiritual journey. Second, it can lead to a kind of spiritual bypassing. This is when we use spiritual ideas or practices to avoid dealing with difficult emotions or life challenges. For example, if a psychic tells you that your soulmate is just around the corner, you might avoid doing the inner work necessary to heal from past relationship traumas or develop healthy relationship skills. Third, unverified spiritual information can sometimes play into our fears or desires in unhealthy ways. A prediction about future success might make you complacent, while a warning about potential dangers might create unnecessary anxiety. Either way, it can distract you from living fully in the present moment. which is where true spiritual growth often happens. Fourth, not all people who claim psychic or channeling abilities are genuine or ethical. While many are sincere in their beliefs and practices, there are unfortunately some who take advantage of people's vulnerabilities for financial gain or ego gratification. Blindly trusting such individuals can lead to emotional, spiritual, and sometimes financial harm. Lastly, even if the person giving the information is genuinely gifted, it's important to remember that psychic or intuitive information is often open to interpretation. The future isn't set in stone, and our free will and actions play a significant role in shaping our lives. Treating psychic information as absolute truth can limit your perceived options and potentially hold you back from exploring different paths. So, what should you do instead of relying on unverified psychic or spiritual information? The key is to develop your own discernment and inner guidance. First, if you do choose to consult psychics or intuitive readers, approach the experience with an open but discerning mind. Use it as one source of information among many, not as the ultimate truth. Pay attention to how the information feels to you. Does it resonate with your own inner knowing, or does it feel off somehow? Second, focus on developing your own intuition. This might involve practices like meditation, journaling, or spending time in nature. Learning to tune into your own inner guidance is a powerful spiritual skill that can serve you in all areas of life. Third, when you receive any kind of spiritual or psychic information, take time to sit with it before acting. Does it align with your values and goals? Does it empower you to make your own choices? Or does it make you feel like you have no control over your life? Fourth, remember that your future is not predetermined. You have the power to shape your life through your choices and actions. Use any intuitive information as a tool for reflection and potential guidance, not as a fixed roadmap for your life. Lastly, if you're dealing with serious life issues, consider seeking advice from qualified professionals in addition to any spiritual guidance. A therapist, counselor, or life coach can offer practical, grounded advice to complement your spiritual explorations. Remember, the goal of your spiritual journey is to empower you, not to make you dependent on external sources of information or guidance. While intuitive insights can be valuable, they should complement, not replace, your own inner wisdom and practical life skills. As we continue our exploration of things to be cautious about on your spiritual journey, keep in mind this balance between being open to spiritual experiences and maintaining your own discernment and autonomy. Our next topic will delve into another area where this balance is crucial, an area that's become increasingly popular in spiritual circles, but can be problematic if not approached mindfully. The fourth item on our list of things you should be cautious about receiving is negative energy or toxic spiritual practices. This might sound obvious at first. After all, who would willingly accept negative energy? But in the spiritual world, these harmful elements can often come disguised as beneficial practices or well-meaning advice. Negative energy can take many forms in spiritual contexts. It might be a meditation technique that leaves you feeling drained instead of refreshed, a healing practice that stirs up trauma without proper support, or a spiritual community that fosters dependency and fear rather than growth and empowerment. toxic spiritual practices are particularly tricky because they often start with good intentions. For example, a practice of radical honesty might seem like a path to authenticity, but without proper boundaries, it can lead to unnecessary hurt and conflict. Similarly, intense fasting or other extreme physical practices might be presented as ways to achieve spiritual breakthroughs, but they can be harmful to your physical and mental health if taken too far. Here's why receiving negative energy or engaging in toxic spiritual practices can be so problematic. First, it can seriously derail your spiritual progress. Instead of moving forward on your path, you might find yourself stuck in negative patterns or even regressing. Negative energy can cloud your judgment, making it harder to connect with your inner wisdom and authentic self. Second, these practices can have real impacts on your mental and emotional well-being. Spiritual experiences should generally leave you feeling uplifted, peaceful, or insightful, even if they're challenging. If you consistently feel anxious, depressed, or drained after spiritual practices, that's a red flag. Third, toxic spiritual practices can sometimes lead to a kind of spiritual addiction. You might find yourself constantly seeking more intense experiences or relying on certain practices to feel okay. This can create a cycle of dependency that's antithetical to true spiritual growth. Fourth, negative energy in spiritual contexts can sometimes open you up to manipulation or exploitation. If you're in a vulnerable state after an intense spiritual experience, you might be more susceptible to influence from others who don't have your best interests at heart. Lastly, engaging with negative energy or toxic practices can disconnect you from your own intuition and self-trust. You might start to doubt your own experiences or feelings if they don't match what you're being told is spiritual. So how can you protect yourself from negative energy and toxic spiritual practices? Here are some strategies. First, trust your gut. If a practice or teaching doesn't feel right to you, even if you can't explain why, it's okay to step back. Your intuition is a powerful tool. Learn to listen to it. Second, be wary of any spiritual practice or teacher that demands unquestioning obedience or isolates you from friends and family. Healthy spirituality should enhance your relationships and life, not cut you off from support systems. Third, pay attention to how you feel after spiritual practices. Do you feel energized, peaceful, or inspired? Or do you feel drained, anxious, or confused? While spiritual growth can sometimes be challenging, it shouldn't consistently leave you feeling worse. Fourth, be cautious of practices that promise quick fixes or dramatic transformations. Real spiritual growth usually happens gradually and requires consistent effort. Fifth, if you're dealing with trauma or mental health issues, make sure any spiritual practices you engage in are trauma-informed and ideally supervised by a qualified professional. Remember, your spiritual journey should be empowering and life-affirming. If a practice or teaching consistently makes you feel smaller, scared, or not good enough, that's not spirituality. That's negativity disguised as spirituality. As we move on to our fifth and final item, keep in mind this idea of trusting your own experience and prioritizing practices that truly support your well-being. Our last topic touches on something that's become increasingly prevalent in the spiritual world, and while it can be beneficial when used wisely, it can also lead us astray if we're not careful. The fifth and final item on our list of things to be cautious about receiving is spiritual bypassing disguised as positivity. This is a tricky one because it often comes wrapped in feel-good messages and seemingly uplifting ideas. But beneath the surface, it can actually hinder our spiritual growth and emotional healing. Spiritual bypassing is a term coined by psychologist John Wellwood. It refers to the tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to avoid dealing with uncomfortable feelings, unresolved wounds, and developmental needs. In the context of our discussion, it often shows up as excessive positivity or a refusal to acknowledge negative experiences or emotions. This might look like always focusing on good vibes only, insisting that everything happens for a reason, even in the face of tragedy, or using phrases like "just let it go" when someone is processing difficult emotions. While positivity can be a powerful force in our lives, when it's used to avoid or suppress genuine human experiences, it becomes a form of spiritual bypassing. Here's why receiving or engaging in spiritual bypassing disguised as positivity can be problematic. First, it can prevent genuine healing and growth. By always pushing for positivity, we might not give ourselves the space to fully process and learn from challenging experiences. Real spiritual growth often comes from facing our shadows and working through difficult emotions, not just focusing on the light. Second, it can lead to a kind of toxic positivity that invalidates people's real experiences. If someone is going through a hard time and they're constantly told to just think positive, it can make them feel like their feelings are wrong or that they're failing at being spiritual. Third, spiritual bypassing can create a disconnect between our spiritual life and our everyday reality. If we're always trying to transcend our human experience, we might miss out on the wisdom and growth opportunities that come from fully engaging with life, including its challenges. Fourth, it can lead to suppressed emotions and unresolved issues. These don't go away just because we ignore them. They often resurface later, sometimes in more problematic ways. Lastly, spiritual bypassing can actually hinder our ability to be truly compassionate, both with ourselves and others. Real compassion involves being present with all kinds of experiences and emotions, not just the positive ones. So how can we avoid falling into the trap of spiritual bypassing and excessive positivity? Here are some strategies. First, practice emotional honesty. Allow yourself to feel and acknowledge all of your emotions, even the uncomfortable ones. Remember, spirituality is about embracing our whole selves, not just the parts we like. Second, be wary of spiritual teachings that always insist on positivity or refuse to engage with life's challenges. True spiritual wisdom should help us navigate all aspects of the human experience, not just the pleasant ones. Third, when you encounter difficult situations or emotions, try to approach them with curiosity rather than immediately trying to change or transcend them. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this, rather than how can I make this go away? Fourth, practice compassionate presence, both with yourself and others. This means being able to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to fix it or make it positive. Fifth, remember that it's okay to seek help when you're dealing with difficult emotions or situations. This might mean talking to a trusted friend, seeing a therapist, or working with a spiritual counselor who understands the importance of integrating all aspects of our experience. Ultimately, true spirituality is about wholeness, not just happiness. It's about developing the capacity to be present with all of life's experiences, the joyful and the painful, the easy and the challenging. By avoiding spiritual bypassing and embracing a more balanced approach, we open ourselves up to deeper healing, more authentic relationships, and more genuine spiritual growth. As we wrap up our exploration of these 5 things to be cautious about receiving on your spiritual journey, it's important to remember that discernment is key. Your spiritual path is unique to you, and what works for someone else might not be right for you. Trust your intuition, be willing to question teachings and practices, and always prioritize your own inner growth and well-being. Remember, true spirituality isn't about escaping the human experience. It's about fully embracing it with all its complexities and challenges. By being aware of these potential pitfalls and approaching your spiritual journey with mindfulness and discernment, you can create a practice that truly supports your growth, healing, and authentic self-expression. Your spiritual journey is a deeply personal and transformative experience. It's about connecting with something greater than yourself, but also about discovering and embracing your own inner truth. As you continue on this path, keep these insights in mind. Be open to new experiences and teachings, but always filter them through your own inner wisdom. Don't be afraid to question, to explore, and to chart your own course. Remember that true spiritual growth often happens gradually through consistent practice and self-reflection. It's not always easy, but it's incredibly rewarding. As you navigate your spiritual path, be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to make mistakes, to learn, and to grow. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it might seem. And always remember that you have the inner wisdom and strength to guide your own spiritual journey. By being mindful of these 5 things to avoid: absolute spiritual authority, quick-fix solutions, unverified psychic information, negative energy, and toxic practices, and spiritual bypassing disguised as positivity, you're already taking a big step towards a more authentic and empowering spiritual life. Your journey is unique, and it's yours to shape. Trust yourself, stay curious, and keep exploring. The path of genuine spiritual growth is filled with both challenges and incredible discoveries. Embrace it all and watch as your spiritual life unfolds in beautiful and unexpected ways. Throughout my years of exploring spirituality and guiding others on their paths, I've seen firsthand how these 5 things can impact someone's spiritual journey. Let me share a personal story that illustrates the importance of being cautious about what we receive in our spiritual practices. A few years ago, I met Sarah, a dedicated spiritual seeker who had been following a popular guru for several years. Sarah was completely devoted to this teacher, hanging on their every word and following their instructions without question. She believed she had found the ultimate spiritual authority who would guide her to enlightenment. At first, Sarah seemed to be thriving. She radiated positivity and spoke enthusiastically about her spiritual progress. However, as time went on, I noticed changes in her behavior. She became increasingly isolated from friends and family who didn't follow the same teacher. She spent large amounts of money on retreats and special teachings, often stretching her finances to the limit. What troubled me most was how Sarah seemed to be losing touch with her own intuition. Whenever she faced a decision or challenge, instead of looking within or considering multiple perspectives, she would immediately turn to her guru's teachings or try to get a direct message from them. The turning point came when Sarah's guru made a prediction about a major life event that didn't come true. This shook Sarah's faith, but instead of questioning the guru, she blamed herself for not being spiritual enough to manifest the prediction. She fell into a deep depression, feeling like a spiritual failure. It took time and support, but eventually, Sarah began to reconnect with her own inner wisdom. She realized that while teachers and guides can be valuable, true spiritual growth comes from within. She learned to balance openness to spiritual teachings with healthy skepticism and self-trust. Sarah's journey taught me a powerful lesson about the importance of maintaining our spiritual autonomy. It showed me how even well-intentioned spiritual practices can become harmful if we lose sight of our own inner guidance. This experience reinforced my belief in the importance of discernment on the spiritual path. It reminded me that true spirituality empowers us to think for ourselves, to question, and to trust our own experiences. It's not about blindly following anyone or anything, but about finding our own truth and walking our own path. As we come to the end of our exploration of 5 things you should never receive from anyone in your spiritual journey, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. We've delved into the dangers of accepting absolute spiritual authority, the pitfalls of quick-fix spiritual solutions, the risks of unverified psychic or spiritual information, the harm of negative energy and toxic practices, and the subtle trap of spiritual bypassing disguised as positivity. These insights aren't meant to make you fearful or overly cautious in your spiritual explorations. Rather, they're tools to help you navigate your path with greater awareness and discernment. The spiritual journey is a beautiful, transformative experience, but like any journey, it has its challenges and potential pitfalls. Remember, your spiritual path is uniquely yours. While teachers, practices, and communities can offer valuable guidance and support, the most important authority on your spiritual journey is your own inner wisdom. Trust your intuition, question what doesn't feel right, and don't be afraid to chart your own course. Be patient with yourself as you grow and learn. Spiritual growth is often a gradual process, filled with ups and downs, insights and challenges. Embrace all of it as part of your journey. Allow yourself to make mistakes, learn from them, and keep moving forward. Stay open to new ideas and experiences, but always filter them through your own discernment. Ask yourself, does this resonate with my inner truth? Does it empower me to grow and evolve? Does it respect my autonomy and encourage me to think for myself? Remember that true spirituality is about connecting with something greater than yourself, but it's also about becoming more fully yourself. It's about embracing all aspects of your human experience, the light and the shadow, the joy and the pain, and finding meaning and growth in all of it. As you continue on your spiritual path, carry these insights with you. Let them be a gentle reminder to stay true to yourself, to question what you're told, and to always prioritize your own growth and well-being. Your spiritual journey is a precious gift. Nurture it, protect it, and allow it to unfold in its own unique and beautiful way. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of spiritual discernment. I hope these insights serve you well on your path. Remember, your journey is your own, and you have the wisdom within you to navigate it. Trust yourself, stay curious, and keep growing. The most beautiful spiritual truths are often the ones we discover for ourselves. As you go forward, I encourage you to reflect on what we've discussed today. How might you apply these insights in your own spiritual practice? What areas of your spiritual life might benefit from a bit more discernment? And most importantly, how can you continue to nurture and trust your own inner guidance? Your spiritual journey is a lifelong adventure of discovery and growth. Embrace it with an open heart and a discerning mind. Trust in your ability to find your way, and remember that true spiritual wisdom often comes from within. Thank you for being here and for your commitment to your spiritual growth. May your path be filled with genuine insights, transformative experiences, and deep connection to your truest self. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.